Something has to give in Minnesota as we have multiple new Kirill Kaprizov and Marco Rossi updates, with the Kaprizov contract situation taking a lot longer than fans thought. Bill Guerin and Michael Russo reveal some very interesting details on it, and with the Marco Rossi situation coming to a head, we also had some very interesting quotes about possible paths for this. We got to dive into the new information about Kaprizov, Rossi, and how this is all looking to come down to, because look, something got to give. Something has to give in Minnesota. We're just about to get there. We're going to talk about all that on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But hey, before we get into the video, we are 25, literally just 25 subscribers away from 18,000. You guys have been amazing with the views. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that button, just double check, because we have content coming all off season long, all season long. Mark, let's get into this. And let's start with Marco Rossi, because look, I know Wild fans, we're sick of hearing about this, and it's driving me kind of nuts, but we do have some interesting things that we have to get into, including what Frank Saravalli had to say, saying, where's that contract going to come in? I could see something like 2x6. I just kind of kick the can down the road and also not inhibit them from trading him. And we also have some other interesting quotes. We have Marco Rossi stats there, but we also have from Joe Smith and Michael Russo a little while ago, just to kind of compound on this effect. On a long-term deal, he wants 6 or 7 mil. Short-term, he's hesitant to sign what he sees as under market value, fearing it would make him easily tradable or leave him buried in the lineup. So when you have these two things, it's like you could have short term, but he doesn't want to take below market value. You could have long term, but the Wild don't want to go to that price. With all of this combining, Mark, I feel like all signs are kind of pointing to the Wild just giving him something short, something just to bridge a gap, just to say, like, listen, we want you to play. We can't have you not playing, but like, I'm genuinely, like, I know we're sick of talking about this, but with this deal still not being done, we're almost at the end of August. I feel like we're getting towards some pretty rough territory where there genuinely is a world that he might not play more than like a year left with the Minnesota Wild.
And I think the biggest thing is we've seen the year he has. Him going out to ask for a significant raise makes sense, but the biggest thing is I do completely agree. If you're giving him a 2-year deal, there's going to be a trade happening either at this deadline or next offseason at some point, because you're not going to walk him into becoming another free agent. We're going to have to go through this whole situation again. And if you give him a small deal and he gets buried, we've seen it happen when he played the fourth line during the playoffs. I understand Marco Rossi wanting to be in the best position to play. He wants to be able to put up points, have another 60, 70, 80, and go all the way to a 90-point season at some point. But it comes down to, I think Bill is going to have to go out, sit down with Rossi's camp and say, what is it going to take for you to sign a 2 or 3 year deal? We want you signed. We can't go into next season having you just sit out the year. Maybe he goes overseas and plays. We don't know what's going to happen, Josh, but like you said, something has to give on this end, and I think it's getting very interesting as we inch closer to opening night.
Like, and that's kind of a de facto deadline. I mean, it is, right? The dude's an RFA. There's no offer sheets coming in. No team wants to do it. Would Minnesota match? I don't even know, but there's talk that, like, look, this year offer sheets are just probably not going to happen. And I understand the principle of not wanting to bring him up to Matt Boldy's number, like, because Boldy is the better player. I think projects to be the better player over the longer term. Yes, Rossi plays the premium position of center, but he's smaller, and Boldy plays some pretty good PK. I feel like some people kind of sleep on that as well, but like, I don't know. Like, I get not paying him the 7, but with the cap rising, I kind of don't mind it either. If this dude can put up 55, 60 points every single year, he's absolutely worth $6 or $7 million a year. But I also understand from the Wild's point of view that you need to have some money, because you got Kaprizov, you have some other contracts on your team that you signed recently. Like, yeah, you got, almost 10 million cap space right now. That's without Rossi's contract, of course. But over the next few years, you got some deals that are eating up a bit of money. Foligno, you got guys like Trennan, even Hartman. So it's like, the money got to go somewhere. Yeah, you got the last year of Tarasenko now, but it's like, it's a bit of an interesting situation, Mark, and I wouldn't be surprised if this drags out even longer. Like, we're talking right before the start of the season, but something's got to give. And that's what I want to see. Like, do you guys think this gets done before the end of August? Because at this point, I'm starting to wonder, like, if they're still so far apart, who is going to break first? Mark, before we get into Kaprizov, like, do you see this as Rossi bending and breaking first, or the Minnesota Wild? Because obviously the Wild want him on the team. That's been made clear. But if you're Rossi and you're standing your ground, like, listen, I deserve this money. Wouldn't shock me if he was maybe the guy to hold out. But that's maybe a whole nother conversation.
I think it's going to come down to Rossi's going to look, and if Bill wants to give him a 2-year deal, I could see Rossi going up and asking for a huge chunk of the 9.4. And the issue with that is going into, you can see the trade deadline space. If the Wild and when the Wild are in the position to make another deep run or try to go on a deep run, with this team, they're going to want to have flexibility to go into the playoffs, make new acquisitions, and 43 million. You can go out and get anyone on the open market at deadline. But I think the big thing is, and I could really see Rossi could sit down and look and say, hey, this is my dollar amount. Don't pay me, and I'll walk into free agency once again next year. Or it's going to come into the point where maybe they go out to make a trade where they're forced to do something. We've seen the reports the Canucks offered a player plus the 15th, probably Filipino, but is that enough to really make Bill just kind of break on the situation, say, hey, we are truly not signing him to this, so we're going to go out and just try to get anything for him?
Yeah, it's so tough. And I mean, we got to hear your guys' thoughts down below because eventually something got to give. Who do you think is going to give first? Is it going to be Rossi who accepts money less than he's worth, or is it going to be Guerin saying, "Look, we need this guy on the team. We can't have him not playing." It's such a weird situation, and honestly, I just can't wait to get to the end of it. But another situation that we didn't think was going to get weird is the Kaprizov situation. Maybe it's still not weird, but Michael Russo recently on DFO Rundown said, I think the Wild financially, look, they're not far apart. I think, though, there's some stuff that has been lost in translation this offseason. Guerin is waiting for him to get back to Minnesota. And honestly, I get that. So this could very well, on one hand, just be, hey, wait for Kaprizov to get back. But James Myrtle also said, as you just had up on the screen there, barring a negotiated change, the newly agreed to CBA doesn't take effect until September 2026, meaning there's lots of time. So if we're talking an 8-year deal, and we're talking a projected deal that is very, very high up in the salary cap. We're talking like, look, Scotiastat has 11.4, but the Wild have basically said we're willing to go up to 15. For anyone worried that he'll be affected by the CBA and only get a 7-year deal if he holds out, it's not really the case. The 8-year deal is still going to be there next summer. But at the same time, Mark, to hear that, like, there's some stuff that's maybe been lost in translation. I think it might just be, hey, wait for him to get back, sign it, pen to paper in front of Bill Guerin, handshake, done deal, 14, 15 million a year. That's fine with me. But I can't help but say, like, again, something's got to give. One of these things has to happen. Like, it doesn't matter if Kaprizov holds out on the extension as long as he eventually signs it. And from Kaprizov's perspective, maybe you just want to, hey, prove yourself again this year. But if the Wild are offering you the world for, like, one of, if not the most expensive contract in hockey, what is taking so long to sign it? So that's where I start to get a little, maybe a little confused. But, like, I feel like this has to get done this offseason, no?
And I think it's going to come down to Bill can probably bring him straight into the office, put a blank check down in front of him, and say, what is it going to take for you to sign an 8-year deal? We know they have the power to give him an 8-year deal. If he hits the open market after the new CBA comes in, then he's looking at a max term of 6 years where teams that drafted him can get 7. So he's losing out on money. Yes, he's getting up in age, and I shouldn't even say up in age. He's 29. He can sign a 8-year deal, be with the franchise till 37, and get paid the world. But I do think there's a world where we see a lot of star players. We've seen the reports of Connor McDavid where he might sign a 2 to 3 year deal. The cap continues to jump and maybe he can cash in. That's the one worry I have with the situation, but I do not expect at any point for Kirill to not be on the Minnesota Wild for at least the next 4 or 5 or even 6 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, yeah, cap's going up, but if he signs a 3-4 year deal, there's risk then because if he signs a 3-4 year deal, you're bringing him to his early 30s. Then you're like, well, what's the next 3-4 year deal going to look like? Is it going to be worth, getting maybe a 3-4 year deal at like $15 million now? Are you still going to get that same amount then? Or if you sign the 8-year deal now, because I mean, you've had a couple of injuries so far in your career. Not that, that's necessarily a sign that it's going to happen again, but like you are well over a point per game. You're in the Hart conversation whenever you're healthy. 386 points in 319 career games. Kirill Kaprizov is worth every penny the Wild are going to pay him. The best player in franchise history. You had to just put the blank checkbook out there. And Bill Guerin himself said, I don't like to put really anything out in the public when it comes to negotiations, but no, there's no real updates. The talks have been pretty consistent. I'm hoping this is just a matter of Kirill Kaprizov coming back to North America, coming back to Minnesota, standing in front of Bill Guerin, handshake, sign the contract. But hey, it's lost in translation. It got us wondering, like, again, something's got to give. One of these things is going to happen. Why hasn't it happened yet? I feel like I'm going insane. I feel like you guys are going insane. We're all going insane trying to wait for this thing to go down. But leave your thoughts on all this. This whole, I don't want to say fiasco, maybe just this saga, because it's gotten out of control down below. Because that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. And hey, hit that subscribe button. 25 away. If you're still watching 10 minutes into this video, come back to this tab. I think we've earned that subscription at this point. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.